Welcome to the Gita in Action podcast. My name is Radha, and I'm here with a family of seekers. We have a record high attendance today. I think, what do we have? We're at 19. We have 19 people, 20 with George. We're 20 with George. Great. So we're at a nice, even, perfect number. And thank you for being here. Thank you for being here and taking this journey with us through the Bhagavad Gita. And we were just talking right before we came on live here about how important it is to try to apply these principles to our lives. And that's really why we come together here twice a week is to study these principles and to try to see them happen in our life, like Gita in action. That's what we're trying to do here. And this little community that we have, our live family, has been so transformative. Just like as accountability buddies, we have a nice live thread and we're like, texting each other during the week and then to come together and learn these things together and in the association of like-minded souls, it's so important. So if you want to come, if you want to be live, you can email me, seekersquest108@gmail.com. You can text me. And if you're not on the live thread and you want to be our WhatsApp group, please text me and I'll add you on that too because it's really personal and intimate. We've become such a family. So thank you all for coming and showing up and taking this journey, doing this journey together. So before we start, um, let's start with the prayers. Shakti.
Mm.
Can you, and I see you just asked, you have a couple questions. I would love for your questions, but today I have to stop right at 8:30 because I have to get downstairs
Okay.
for the conference, but let's just connect online and we'll do it for sure.
Yeah, very easy.
Okay.
It's
Thank
very
you.
easy. Okay. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Umilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kara Mayam Dandati Sva Pandatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancha Garungi Radhe Vrindavanishpari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Prananami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Saranta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachayane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschataya Tarayane Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavembhyo Vaishnavyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadahara Shri Vasari Guru Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Thank you so much. Beautiful. Thank you. Okay, so we are starting, and we're going to be in chapter 9, text 6 today. So chapter 9, text 6. And we're in this section, we're in the chapter called Most Confidential Knowledge, which is really about who Krishna is, our personal relationship with God. So this is called Most Confidential Knowledge because this is like the pinnacle of spiritual knowledge. And Krishna only reveals himself to those that have that heart, that open heart, that humble heart, those that seek relationship with God. That's when God reveals himself. And so this chapter is all about that. So it's really sweet. We're getting to the nectar, we're getting to the essence, and the Gita is just unfolding as we're getting there. And Monday was Gita Jayanti, and I listened to the Gita just like straight through. And it was really nice seeing the progression from like chapter one to all the way to like where we are right now. Because as we're studying it, I'm going deeper and deeper into it too, as we're doing this together. And I'm seeing how it really just unfolds. And it gives you such a deeper appreciation for it to see the intelligence that the Gita that Krishna put the Gita together in. It takes you on this journey. And where we are right now is again like the pinnacle of this journey, like to personal relationship with God. And the Gita kind of prepares us for that in its progression. So it's really beautiful. We're at a great spot. And we're going to start with text 6. We're going to start with text 6. And whenever you're ready, Stella.
Oh,
Stella, do you want to do
okay.
the Sanskrit today, or do you want to just do the translations?
I mean, I could try the Sanskrit.
Okay, let's do it.
Yata kasa stito nityam
Oh,
vayu sarvatra go mahan tata sarvani bhutani matstaniti upattaraya. Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created beings rest in me.
thank you. So Krishna's giving us this beautiful visual here. He's saying, just as the mighty wind blows everywhere, yet always rests in the sky, all living beings rest in me. So for most of us, it's almost impossible to imagine how the entire cosmic creation could actually exist within God, right? Like, what does that mean? Like, it feels too big or too vast or too abstract. So Krishna's giving us this example of how we can wrap our minds around it. So we think about the sky like it's probably like the biggest thing that we can perceive. And within that gigantic sky, the wind moves everywhere. So the wind is powerful. It influences, the weather, the temperatures, the seasons, like everything. But even with all its power, the wind still moves within the sky because it's limited to the sky, and it never escapes it. It never goes beyond its boundary. So that's Krishna saying that's how this whole creation exists inside of me. Like everything we see, the planets, universes, living beings, all of it's moving, shifting, growing, dissolving within his energy. It's all happening within his energy. Nothing operates independently. Prabhupada would say, not even a blade of grass moves without the will of the Lord. And yet, Krishna remains aloof, just as the sky, remains untouched by whatever storms or winds blow through it. He maintains everything, he supports everything, but everything ultimately depends on his will. And he's also never entangled or like burdened by any of it. So he's maintaining, he's supporting, he's controlling. He's never entangled or burdened by any of it. So now let's move this closer to our daily experience. Like we all feel like we have freedom. Right? We all feel like we have freedom. And we do, like to some extent. We choose how we live, how we speak, how we act, how we treat others. And if you want to like close out of this browser and leave this class, you can. If you want to stay, you can. But just like the wind moves freely only within the sky, our freedom also has a framework. We can't choose not to age. We can't pause time. We can't decide to just like grow wings and fly away. So Krishna gives us unlimited freedom within a limited structure. Just like a horse that's tied to a post that can roam anywhere within the radius of its rope. So this balance of freedom and boundary is actually his compassion. So he gives us enough space to explore, to choose, to try, to fail, to grow. but not so much freedom that we destroy ourselves completely. Like his love, excuse me. It's beautiful. Like his love, it doesn't restrict us, it releases us. It's because he loves us, he honors our free will, and he allows us to act out our desire for happiness. And when we use that freedom wisely, he helps us move towards full liberation. And this is so beautiful, this mix of like boundaries and freedom. And I think this is something like I've always struggled with my whole life is boundaries. Like I felt like boundaries were like restricting me. And then we learn in spiritual life how boundaries they actually kind of protect us. They kind of protect us, but there has to be a balance of freedom and boundaries, or we feel like suffocated if there's just too many boundaries that we can't move, right? But Krishna's system is perfect. Like he gives us this framework, and there's also a framework within the framework, right? Like all of his guidance that he gives. Even something like marriage, that's a framework. You commit to one person, and within that framework, you have married life, and that protects you from a lot of things, from a lot of things, from having multiple partners and all the things that come with that. So these boundaries are meant to protect us. And then within that, we have free will. And this free will is important because love doesn't exist without free will. Isn't it? Like anybody ever been in a relationship where your free will is just like completely choked and it's just control, right? Then that's not love. So this element of free will is so important. It has to exist because we have to choose to turn back to Krishna because without that choice, there's no love in that relationship. And Krishna wants our love. He wants our hearts. What do you think, Zoe?
Sorry, this is really awesome again, because it's so funny because like over 10 years ago, I used to go to my old church and they were hosting like these yoga classes. And I didn't know this was a Krishna. This is pretty cool. But sometimes I notice when you do like whatever kind of meditation or yoga, you'll just something will just come to you. On the banks of the Ganga, I had things just come to me. Um, and so relevant to this, when I was at the yoga class at Second United Presbyterian, my old church, and another group outside that was hosting yoga classes, I would sit in this really, yoga is, I'm not flexible, first of all, disclosure. I can't do these things. I don't stretch, I don't bend. So I'm sitting in this pose and it's not comfortable. It's like uncomfortable, but I'm sitting in it. I'm trying to find the comfort in that discomfort. And that's when it came to me. It said true freedom is not having, no limitations. It's knowing your limitations and working within. So within that space of discomfort. So if
Mm-hmm.
you sit in it for a while, it's like, even if you're struggling to do japa, because I do, one time I got to 12 rounds. I thought I was going to do a whole day. Then my son interrupted me. I was like, oh, it's so close. So, but if you sit in that discomfort, here's what happens. Just a little bit, it pushes your space. So it does expand, that space within the limitation. So I just wanted to share that because that was so wild, because that was something like over a decade ago. I just came to me saying, you just said it. So that's wild. That's it.
Yes, yes, exactly. And so many of us worry so much about having more freedom, right? We want more freedom, we want more options, that we almost sometimes get so distracted by that desire alone that the energy towards like even picking the right one relative to our ultimate goal is kind of frazzled. And so we can learn to appreciate the structure that exists, and then we can learn, to make good choices within that structure that support our ultimate goal, which is connection with God, connection with ourselves, connection with others. What do you think, Stella?
Yeah, and we've always seen this in marriage, that real commitment in marriage, when you're truly committed, there's, you really love each other, but you know, even though your feelings may change, you stay in that marriage, you're actually free to be yourself. You don't have to prove yourself. You don't have to, constantly like make a good impression. Like, but when someone truly like supports you and wants the best for you, you can unfold your own personality, your own being within that. You don't have to chase something. It's like a foundation from which you can jump into the sky and fly. You know, like this. I find that we found that through the years that we could really be ourselves. And that's like a beautiful freedom
And
that you know the person's going to love you no matter what.
and that's like the ultimate marriage too with Krishna. I mean, the same things that Stella just said, but to the max.
Yeah, that's so perfect and such a beautiful example of when you're in like a really healthy, committed relationship. There's a framework. Like you can't
Yeah.
just like do whatever you want necessarily. There's a framework. You have vows, you have commitment. And but from that, it gives you the stability, the security to really flourish
Yes.
and it gives you more freedom in that
Yes.
way.
Flourish. To
Perfect.
flourish is a kind of beautiful freedom. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a perfect example. So that's synonymous, right, to what Krishna's created for us here. It's a structure, it's a limited framework, but in that it gives us freedom, and to the degree that we even follow his guidance, which to some may feel like a very limited freedom framework, right? Like what we can't do drugs, we have to have one partner. This his guidance is tightens it, but in that we see that it really gives you the foundation to grow. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Shakti, what do you think? Shakti and George.
Yeah, so Stella was right on. I was like literally on that same topic. And, you know, like if you're married for 10, 15, like George and I celebrated a couple months ago, 20 years marriage. And I mean, so I can look at Stella and Kalachandri and say, it's not smooth sailing. Life is not smooth sailing all through your 20, 30 years. But if you can learn to be yourself and then learn to accept them for who they are and just let them be. Like I didn't ask George to get up this morning. I didn't say you should come on the show. You should be on the Gita with me every single week. He said to me, "You know what? I think I'm going to start joining the Gita with you on the during the week." Like his freedom allowed him to make a choice because I didn't make demands on him. I didn't say, you should do this, you should. And then I said, I might go to New Vrindavan for a month, but I have the end of the month, I have to do the Bhakti circle. He said, don't worry, I'll take care of that for you. Like things that like blow my, that's like Krishna in my life going, don't worry, like take care of you, be with me, and you will be taken care of. And it's
Mm,
like, wow, like it's as I'm unfolding in this new kind of world that I'm living in with my guru and new things that he's giving me, new new services that he's giving me. Like I just see George stepping up to sort of be there for me, and not because I'm saying, well, I can't go because, and I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, well, I want to go, but da da da. And he'll say, no, no, don't worry, I know how to set everything up. I can set it up for the
mm,
1 month. And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, wow, really? Like, so like these are things like he just sees, what he sees is he sees the change in me.
mm,
And so because of that, he wants to be a part of that and he wants to do it with me. And
mm,
that is like, I mean, College Andrea and Stella, like our oldest couple here, can say, like, that is the true Krishna love right there. And
mm.
I mean, am I wrong? I mean, yes. Okay.
No, you're on. You're getting so much encouragement on the thread here. George, is this she didn't twist your ear to be here, did she?
No, no, no.
George can attest to this.
It's you talked about the whole vows thing as well, right? So,
Mm,
with the marriage, right? It's for better or for worse, right? So it's always going to be nothing is a straight line. It's this roller coaster of life. Um,
mm,
but no, you always find a way, right? You'll always figure it out. I think sometimes when you're in the moment and you're stressed out and they're anxious and this and that, but it always gets better, right? So
Mm,
you think it's the end of the world, that moment only lasts so long, and then
hmm.
it sort of regulates, and then you always find a way.
Yes.
So that's I always say, like, don't worry, we always find a way. You might feel anxious now, you might feel like, oh my God, what's happening? And then and and it's, smooth sailing again.
Yes. Spoken like a true spiritualist. Spoken like a true spiritualist. Because that is life, right? That is marriage. That is relationship with a person. That is relationship with material energy, and that is why we have God in our lives to ground us and to be our steady anchor in those ups and downs. Yeah. Thank you. Katie, what do you think?
Hi, Haribol, everyone. Yeah, it reminded me yesterday I heard something very helpful, and then a few hours later actually got like super anxious and um it was really helpful. So basically like, you know, whether in calamity or in a peaceful, content time, like both are gonna pass, both are gonna change, and we're always protected.
Mm,
And that word protected was really, really comforting. Um, yeah. And then when I was kind of having like an anxiety attack and really upset, I got really overwhelmed. I was just thinking like, accept where I am right now. Like, it's okay. I'm still protected. I'm still loved. And then earlier than that, I like saw the full moon and just had a moment of like, oh, Krishna, there you are. And that was really
mm,
helpful too. Yeah, so I just thought that seemed to really go along and wanted to share. Thanks.
amazing. Thank you. Thank you, Katie. So that's love within a framework. Okay, that's boundaries that's boundaries with free will. But so another really beautiful part of this is that even though all beings rest in God, God's never strained by it or drained by it or overwhelmed the way that we often are. So we get emotionally exhausted caring for even a handful of people. It's emotionally exhausting. We had just had a birthday party for my daughter last night, and there was only a handful of people there. But it was exhausting for me. It was exhausting, right? We get tangled in attachments and in expectations and responsibilities. Like my daughter's 1 year old. I was just telling everybody I'm at a conference in Pittsburgh today, and I'm 14 hours away from my daughter. And I'm so attached that it's a struggle for me. It's like, it's paradigm shifting a little bit, right? Because this is just material consciousness. I love my daughter, but at the same time that I am attached to her in a way that is not 100% selfless. I mean, it's pretty close, I'd like to say, but no, it's not 100% selfless. There's quite an attachment there. Our love can feel heavy because it can be mixed with fear, insecurity, need to control. Yeah, God's love isn't like that. His love isn't like that. His affection, it's steady, it's pure, it's effortless. He can maintain the entire universe without the slightest feelings of fatigue because he's never bound by material attachments the way that we are. It's like I'm hosting this party and I'm worried about how much food we have. Is the food hot? Is everybody happy? Does everybody have something to drink? Like, all these things. And it's just like, it's exhausting. Right? No, Krishna can take care of us all effortlessly. He can take care of us all effortlessly, and it doesn't weigh on him at all. Okay? Nothing in the world pulls on him or drains him or destabilizes him. For us, connection often comes with entanglement. We're connected to we get connected to people, and we get kind of stuck on their roller coaster of ups and downs as well, right? We get kind of entangled in that. right? But for God, connection comes with complete freedom. So, and I just want to like just to understand, like when we can understand the greatness of God, we really come to love God. And this is why even understanding the greatness of God, the infinite being compared to us, the finite being, we understand God's like inconceivability. It's like, whoa, right? And then from that intimacy comes. Right? We can really start to love God and have this intimate relationship. So just try to wrap your mind around this a little bit, that God can be so connected without being entangled. And its connection comes with complete freedom. So he can be intimately connected with everything and everyone, but never become entangled or burdened by anything. This is amazing. This is amazing. It's like my daughter, gets upset about something or she's crying, and I'm feeling like so frustrated that it's like I just feel like the frustration just like bottling up inside of me when I hear when she's, throwing a tantrum. But Chris is not entangled like that. He still loves. He's not cold. He's not like detached in a cold way. He loves, but he's completely free. He doesn't get burdened. He doesn't get entangled. This is God's inconceivable mystic opulence. So after showing us how he maintains all beings, how they rest in him, Krishna is going to move to the next big theme, which is how creation and destruction also unfold within his energy. So that's where we're going next. Before we go there, does anybody have anything they'd like to share? We were just talking at the table last night, actually. We were talking about parenting, and my friend was sharing, a struggle that she has in parenting, which is like how to care but not become too involved. Hey, you have these expectations for your kids. You want them to do this, and you want to show them that you care, but you don't want to like become too involved. And it's like Krishna is expert at this. I was telling her, Krishna is expert at this. We struggle. We struggle, right? Because even though it's like, no, I want what's best for you, we're still a little bit attached, a lot attached. Right? But Krishna wants what's best for us. He wants more than anything for us to turn back to him. Like we can't even imagine how much he wants that. But at the same time, he doesn't get overly involved in a way that's like entangling or we've all felt that. We've either been parents and felt that, or we've been kids and felt that. And it doesn't feel like love. It feels like control, right? Do we understand the difference here? Is this making sense? Yeah. Good. Shaking your head. So what do you think?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and we kind of talked about this a little bit last week about that. I was saying that I had to learn it's how like there was this free will thing and our freedom, and yet even with our kids, and we like my son, I had to take a new approach where it's like I get to support him, but I have to support him with somewhat a level of its detachment, realizing like he's got his own path that's already been created for him, and I want to support, but I don't want to interfere. So it's like, how much do you get involved? Like when he in February of last year jumped on a plane with no money, nowhere to live, to go out to Los Angeles, it was utterly terrifying. And so I did what I could only do. I had someone and I said, let's pray. And I said, well, let's pray that he only comes into people of faith. I didn't care what faith, but just people, because there's, I didn't want to fall in the hands of like, there's a lot of dangers out there, especially in a city like that. And you know what? It worked, because in fact, when he had a complete breakdown and didn't have his phone, didn't have his ID, just, was walking around with no shoes in a park, it was a Mexican American family of, solid faith background, and the mother was like, that's someone's son. And the father was like, he might be hungry. And then his friend Iker reached out to him and said, hey man, can I call anybody for you? I wouldn't have found them and able to go get him if it wasn't for that. So, it does, yeah, you like what a test of radical detachment. But anyway, that's
Yeah.
it. Hmm.
Radical love, radical detachment in radical love. It's holding that space. Yeah, Krishna is so expert at this, but we struggle. And when we get an appreciation for how much we struggle, we get an appreciation for Krishna's greatness because he doesn't struggle. It's effortless. It's really quite amazing. Thank you. Beautiful. Thank you. So I'm sure that would have been So tough. I can't even imagine. You're in our hearts. Aaron, what do you think?
Well, I'm just thinking about what Zoe just shared, and it's so interesting because I feel like I've seen many examples in my life of, I'm specifically thinking of people who have become mothers, some of whom have like really closed off and like their nuclear family is like the only thing that matters.
Mm,
And like, just one, like extreme reaction. And then like the exact opposite, I've seen examples of where it's like what Zoe just shared, where it's like, oh my God, everyone is someone's, son
mm,
or daughter. And like, the heart, like, or like at least the perception just like breaking open in a really opposite way. And I'm just thinking like, why do we have such different reactions? And I don't know, maybe it's what like Zoe was saying about, having that foundation in faith, or I'm not sure, but I think it's so interesting how like the same, phenomena of becoming a parent could like cause such, I think it's going to cause radical changes, right? But like how you could really go in one extreme or another. So I was just thinking about that. And then earlier when you were all talking, um, Ananta Govinda shares amazing stuff all the time, on Instagram, and he had a video recently, and he was just talking about how like life doesn't get better, but we get better. And
mm,
I just love that statement so much. And your conversation, everyone talking earlier, was making me think like, well, what does better even mean in this context? Because like it doesn't mean that you won't have the anxiety attack anymore, right? Or like it doesn't mean that like, I used to kind of think like, oh, that sounds so like practicing detachment, or practicing like having a steady mind sounds so like I'm not going to feel anything, right? Like I'm just going to be unbothered by anything, which doesn't seem real. But yeah, so I'm just thinking now about like what does it even mean to be better? And I think the obvious answer would be like, in the middle of that anxiety attack, like thinking of Krishna or holding on to Krishna, or like, using him and your faith in whatever way that looks like as your anchor. And then I also have been thinking lately about what you shared a while back about like the Gita just like right sizing our suffering.
mm,
And I love that phrase too so much, because it's like, I was just telling this to a coworker, like your suffering is real, even though like there's worse suffering out there in the world, right? Like
mm,
that doesn't mean your suffering isn't real and your feelings aren't valid. Um, but then I feel like that's like step one, right? And then
mm,
step maybe like 101 is like when you get to like really study, but also like imbibe this text of like that just like notion of resizing suffering. I don't know. It's really big. So that's been something I've been thinking about a lot, because I can see the theory of how it works. Maybe not like the
mm,
practice yet, but definitely the theory.
mm. Beautiful reflections. Beautiful reflections. And your first reflection about somebody who only cares for their nuclear family versus some, like in Zoe's example, versus somebody who sees every person as a child of somebody, a child of God, feels a connection, to every living being. It's a difference between a spiritualist and a materialist. Because a materialist, when we say materialist, somebody who's not seeking connection with God, then they're going to be connected to their family because they see them as as an expansion of themselves. right? It's just like extended ego. And then even you can even do that and have like serve your community. It's just a very extended ego. You see them just through yourself. But when we connect to source and we connect to other people as because they're children of God, we connect to our families because they're children of God. We connect to our community because they're children of God. It's a much healthier perspective, and it breeds a much healthier, stable relationship. Not to say that the other you can't have stability in, but it's never going to be as stable as when you're connected to other people, other living beings through God, right? As your connection with God, and then connection to everything as children of God. Because ultimately, we know when the ego's in the center, it's ultimately at some point gonna cause some conflict.
It's so interesting because like that makes so much sense. And I'm just thinking more about like this framework conversation because I've seen examples where, people have a religious framework and still don't have that like they still close off and have just like the prioritization of their nuclear family. And like another person in my life who doesn't have a religious framework and just like surprises me over and over again of like she can make those connections that everyone is a child of God, without. So it's so interesting that like, yeah, I guess we're just all, bringing what we learned in previous lives, and like, we're all on different paths, but yeah, it just like speaks so loudly to like the fact that, bhakti can be found in any religion, but like not all religious things are bhakti. And yeah, we all just like we need different frameworks to get there.
Yeah, totally. And somebody can be quote unquote religious or in a religious framework and lack that relationship with God. You can be practicing all the rules and regulations, but your heart is not, in your heart of hearts, you're not really cultivating connection because you're still kind of staying on the outside. It's still kind of on a superficial level. And in that, you could still very much be living still in the ego without even really have without that relationship. And
Oh
on
my
the other
goodness,
side is true
yes.
too, right? Yeah, the other side is true too. Like you can be overly sentimental, but without the philosophical backing, and that also
Mm,
has its own dangers.
hmm.
So we want to have both. We want to have a philosophical backing, but we want to understand that the purpose of that is ultimately connection with God in our hearts, right? And when our hearts connect with God, our hearts are transformed. And when our hearts are transformed, that shows up in every facet of our lives. Religion is not something that's just practiced once a week at a church or, depending on how well you're following guidelines or rules, it's something that you live every day in the way that you show up. And that's when you're making that transition from, really knowing it to really living it. And there's quite a difference there. And that's why we can't look at somebody and judge, their connection with God just on the outside because there's so many different factors. We just don't know, right? We just don't know. Certainly we can't decide how spiritual somebody is based off of the rules, how well they're following the rules that we think they should be, or it's like
Hmm.
it's so superficial. So yeah,
Yeah,
beautiful.
no, that rings so true. It makes me think of um, I think Prabhupada said, like, religion without philosophy is just like fanaticism, and
Yeah,
philosophy without religion is just mental speculation. And
yeah.
I've, I get that and like hear it on paper, but I feel like this conversation and the examples, like what you just said, made it be like, oh, that's why philosophy is important. Or like, that's why both are important. Yeah.
Yes, because it does have to be directed, and that's what the rules do. The rules kind of create that framework. The philosophy, it creates that framework so that our hearts are directed towards God in a kind of a straight arrow way. If we can have the sentiments, but if it's not directed, if it's not guided, it's not going to be as strong, yeah, and powerful. Thank you. Beautiful. What do you think, Zoe?
Well, to to piggyback off of all this and kind of what Erin's saying, I understand what she's saying, how like, that certain, familial structures people will get withdraw into it and get steeped and like consider it like your everything, your whole structure, and then you disconnect from your social engagement, your church, even like a disconnection from God. And I just want to say, like, my best friend from high school, while I was in India and Rishikesh, and it was the weirdest thing because I never talk about her. And the night before I was mentioning her for some reason, because we became very disconnected due to differences in like philosophy and way of life and things like that. And then I don't know why I was thinking about it. The very next morning, I looked up and I saw like a post. I usually wasn't checking my stuff, but the first post was that her husband had died, and he's only a year older than me. So, she had lived this kind of close, brought up in a pretty, pretty intense Italian Catholic background, so I can understand having some Italian Catholic background myself. I can understand like, that being a little bit much and, needed to kind of find other things, but, and she found her own way, but, and there was kind of an insularness in the way she's lived her life, and I'm not saying anything about it. Like if you want to live a traditional life, I think that's fine and well, but, I think there's a lot to be said when you do it in the context of keeping that connection to your faith community, your spiritual community, as opposed to just doing it as just purely like a nuclear family model, which I kind of think is what, Erin's saying. But, when I went to the celebration of life for her husband, it was all music. And then I saw her kind of like in high school, like being the social butterfly, like going around talking to this person, that person. I was kind of trailing her and like she was introducing me, which is funny because it's the same way we were in high school. So I kind of see her, connecting. And, the bigger thing is, God saying like, just keep him above all else because, or at least in your heart. And I think he's still definitely in her heart because I could see it the way she's like navigating this. I don't know what to do with my life. And what she told me, she said, as a person, I said, I might do this. I might do this for work. She says, as a person who just lost their husband, I'm telling you, change is good. So I thought that was very powerful from her to say that. But anyway, yeah, I'm just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Yeah. When God's your anchor, then it's unshakable. That's it. If God's your anchor, when we lose, because we're going to lose those things, we're going to lose our family, we're going to lose our friends, right? Everything's going to be taken away from us eventually. But if God's your anchor, you're set up for much better success than if not. And you could very well fall down with them, with those things. Yeah. Very nice, beautiful discussion. Should we do one more verse here? One more verse. Shakti, do you want to try to do the Sanskrit for us this time?
Sarva Bhutanai Kutene Praktrim Yanti Mamakam Kalpa Kasye Punastani Kalpadu Vrishjami Aham.
Thank you. And Shakti, or Stella?
Oh, excuse me. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again.
Thank you. So in this verse, Krishna is taking the idea of creation and destruction to a much more personal level. That's kind of like the theme of this chapter. You see, everything's just getting taken to a super personal level. Because back in chapter 8, he already talked about how the material world works in cycles. Do you guys remember that? We talked about the seasons. Everything gets created, everything eventually dissolves, and then the cycle repeats. This is material energy. We talked about these cycles in life, right? But in chapter 8, the emphasis was different. Krishna wasn't focusing on who was behind that cycle. So he was just pointing out that even the biggest things, we talked about Brahma's lifespan, millions and millions of years, the higher planets, the entire universe, those things are temporary. So that was the point in chapter 8. That was where we were getting with that discussion. Because everything material is temporary, aim for what's eternal. Aim for me. That was the message that we were getting from that discussion in chapter 8. But now in 9-7, Krishna's bringing back the same topic, but he's deepening it. He's saying at the end of a cosmic cycle, everything returns into my nature. And when the next cycle begins, everything comes out again by my potency. So in chapter 8, the point was material nature is temporary. Even Brahma's world ends. Therefore, don't get attached to any of this. Don't get attached to any of this. Seek the eternal spiritual world. But in chapter 9, the point becomes, let me tell you who's actually orchestrating all of this. Everything dissolves into me, and everything is created by me. Material nature isn't independent. I'm in charge of it. So it's a development of thought. This is, again, so it's so beautiful about the Gita. It just builds on itself. So we get to this place. Before Krishna allowed us to focus on the temporary nature of the world so that we could start loosening our attachment to it. But he didn't really emphasize the who's in control aspect yet. He just wanted us to see at that point, like, don't get stuck here. There is something higher. But now we've arrived into this chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge. Krishna begins revealing his personal role. And we should really reflect on this and try to realize this, that he exists eternally in the spiritual world. But simultaneously, he's the supreme controller of the material world. And that this massive, mysterious creation appears and disappears by his will. Like, it's not even random. All of this, the creation, the destruction, the cycles, the universes, it's all happening under his supervision. And then this theme is gonna continue in the next few verses where Krishna explains even more clearly how material nature works under his control, not the other way around. So God's in his eternal abode, and he's also supervising everything that's going on here. It's really quite magnificent. Nothing's random. Nothing's random. It's not just happening. It's God's behind it all. What do you think, Shakti?
So, as of late, my Gurudev asked me to take over Hamilton as a Bhakti Yoga Circle to turn it into an ISKCON center. And he came for last week, and there weren't a lot of people there, and like I just started crying. Like, I felt like, oh my God, I'm disappointing my Gurudev. Like for me, that's my connection to Krishna, and that's most important, right? Like, disappointing some Joe, I don't care, but disappointing my Gurudev, right? But he was there, he was chanting Hare Krishna, and there was only 2 other people there other than George and I. And this has been running for 5 years. So I thought, I don't know what's been going on for 5 years, but there's nobody there. And so I'm just thinking, like, okay, I have to figure out how to make this work. Like, I just want to please him, which means for him, pleasing him means pleasing Krishna for me. That's how I look at it. And it's a little bit stressful because I really want to show him that, he chose me to do the right service, and so it's like a different type of feeling, and I feel connected to Krishna when George and I do the service once a month, and we go to the Bhakti Yoga Circle, and we have food and kirtan. But I really want to make this. He wants to put a temple in Hamilton, so he's trying to build towards that, and I really want so much. So I just pray to Krishna, like, help me find the right way to bring people there so that I can show Krishna, so I can share with Krishna, and I can share with my Gurudev that I can do this for him, because he believed. I said, I was crying actually, and I said, I feel like I disappointed you. He goes, oh, you're Shakti. He's like, you can get this going, and it's just like, I've never had that, like I've never had someone when it wasn't where it should be, tell me I can do it. It's there, you have it. It's like, if it's not there, then people are like, well, how come there's only 2 people here? Like, they always have that negative. and it's a like I wasn't used to it, but it felt so warming to my heart. And yeah, so I don't know. That just came to my mind.
Mm.
And it's really beautiful. So it's so beautiful. Like I cry out of like love and connection. I'm not crying out of sadness. I'm crying out of love and connection and wanting to really serve him. He says, I know you can do this, Shakti. I said, oh, I'm just a fallen soul. He goes, not anymore. You are Shakti. Like he just is always, just no matter what, he's doing that. And it's just so, I've never had that, I didn't have that in my life. I had, you know, oh, well, you can borrow this as long as you don't break it, like that kind of thing. And so this was such a different, like a completely different outlook. And I just feel so grateful for that. Yeah, that's all I have
You
to say.
know, a real teacher and guru too sees your heart and sees the purity of intention. And if only two people come for the next 10 years, it's just going to keep encouraging and loving you no matter what because they see your heart. I feel like I kind of learned this the hard way with one of my teachers because he was pushing me to do something and I didn't really agree with the way that he thought it should be done. And I wanted so bad for it to happen that I was kind of like, him and I were kind of like going back and forth on it. And I came to realizing that like he doesn't even care if it happens or not. He just cares that I show up with love in the way that I'm executing it and approaching him and other people. Like that's what he cares about. That's what he's trying to teach me in this. Not that the result needs to be exactly, perfect or kosher. And we don't even control the result. That's the other thing he's trying to teach me. It's not even for us to decide how it should look or how many. It's, maybe we have some goals in mind, but really we're just striving forward the best that we can. And a real guru sees that sincere intent and sees that sincere heart and just encourages that because that's the job of a guru. It's not like I'm not going to be happy if you don't get this many people. It took me so long to figure that out with my spiritual teachers. It's that they don't have that material consciousness. They're just trying to fan the spark. They're just trying to fan the spark, and that spark is love of Krishna. And when we love, we try to serve sincerely. And when they see us doing that, they're happy. So we get stuck in material consciousness, but we can drop that because it just yucks up our lives. Right?
Radha,
It's
you
just
have to go. Dear Radha, you need to show up at
Yeah,
your
you need to
meeting.
go. You need to go.
Oh, you guys are funny.
This
Uh,
is a wonderful
let's
plan.
hear from one more person. I want to hear from one more person.
Radha.
We are worried about you going to the meeting in
Don't
time.
be
Yes, you need
worried.
to
Don't
show
be
up.
worried. You guys are
That's
so
why
sweet.
I wrote in the class so that nobody else has more to say because Radha has to go.
Okay, all right, fine. I'll go to my meeting. This is so boring. This is so much more fun.
I know.
Okay.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks for showing up, and we'll see you all on Monday.
Looking forward to it.
See
Hare
you.
Krishna,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Haribol.
Krishna.